And welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Friday, April 15th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories viewed here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. And here are some of the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. U.S. Attorney Timothy Purdon says 5 Spirit Lake tribal officers and employees in North Dakota have been indicted on theft and embezzlement charges in 3 separate cases. They include Patricia Robertson, coordinator of the tribe's low-income home energy assistance program, tribal councilman Carl Walking Eagle and his wife Barbara, a librarian at the community college in Fort Totten, tribal councilman Justin Yankton, and Brooke Black, an employee with the tribe's food distribution program. Yankton and Barbara Walking Eagle have pled not guilty. Carl Walking Eagle, Black, and Robertson are to be arraigned on April 18th. A national panel of judicial and law enforcement experts convened this month in New Mexico to begin its part in a massive federal and tribal effort aimed at revamping the justice system across Indian country. The 9-member Indian Law and Order Commission was established under the Tribal Law and Order Act, signed into law last summer by President Barack Obama. It is charged with conducting a comprehensive study of law enforcement and criminal justice in tribal communities across the country and using its findings to make recommendations to Congress and the President. Jefferson Keogh, Lieutenant Governor of the Chickasaw Nation of Oklahoma and President of the National Congress of American Indians, was among the commissioners meeting in Santa Fe. He said the panel has the potential to be a driving force behind implementing the act, which contains sweeping changes aimed at giving tribes more authority, resources, and information needed to combat crime on reservations. A band of Creek Indians has filed papers to establish a reservation on the Georgia coast. The Kialegee tribal town of Oklahoma has a contract to buy 300 acres, part of the St. Simons Island developer Joe McDonough's 4,300 acres near Brunswick, Georgia. The deal is contingent on the Bureau of Indian Affairs recognizing the land as a reservation. The Kialegee say they want to establish and recreate a tribal town as a tourist attraction and then make a deal for a larger project. A bill that would allow the state to transfer land to the Kialegee has passed the Georgia Senate. Representative Roger Lane, a Republican from Darien, Georgia, chairman of the House subcommittee considering the bill, says the panel members want to determine whether the Kialegee could build a gambling casino there in the future without state approval. With a series of ongoing renovations, a master plan intended to expand services at the Alaska Native Medical Center in Anchorage is underway. The plan encompasses a variety of improvements to the medical center's campus, including renovations of existing facilities inside the medical center, a new vertical parking garage, and a new building. The building, which won't be occupied until the year 2015, according to medical center officials, will house outpatient facilities, including many currently located inside the center. This will free up space for inpatient services in addition to outpatient, according to Robert Wilson, the center's director of facilities. This is especially crucial since demand for outpatient services has increased dramatically in the 14 years since the medical center was founded, according to Wilson. Governor Jack Dalrymple says he cannot imagine any reason why a planned private meeting of NCAA and state officials about the University of North Dakota's Fighting Sioux nickname should not be open to the public. Separately, Heidi Heitkamp, a former North Dakota Attorney General, said she believed North Dakota law requires that the April 22nd meeting be open to the public. The NCAA considers the nickname and UND's American Indian head logo to be hostile to American Indians, and UND faces sanctions if the name and logo are retained. The North Dakota legislature recently approved a bill which takes effect August 1st that orders UND to keep both. The NCAA's president, Mark Emmert, and its chief inclusion officer, Bernard Franklin, plan to come to Bismarck, North Dakota to speak with state and college officials about the issue on April 22nd. Frontline examines a little-known chapter of the Catholic Church sex abuse story. Decades of abuse by Native Americans, by priests and other church workers in Alaska, through candid interviews with survivors. This frontline report focuses on abuse by a number of men who worked for the church along Alaska's far west coast in the late 1960s and early 1970s. All told, they would leave behind a trail of hundreds of claims of abuse, making this one of the hardest hit regions in the United States. As part of Frontline's new magazine program, In the Silence, the first of two magazine segments airing Tuesday, April 19th, 2011 at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on PBS Frontline. Producer Tom Kern and reporter Mark Trahant examine the legacy of abuse by a number of men who worked for the Catholic Church along Alaska's west coast in the 60s and 70s. The Silence is a co-presentation of Native American Public Telecommunications, or NAPT.
I'm Mark Trahant, and I'm an independent journalist from Idaho, and worked on a program for Frontline where we went with the Bishop of Fairbanks to a village, St. Michael on the Norton Sound, where the bishop was apologizing for clergy abuse that was prevalent many years ago. It's a very emotional story. It uncovers a lot of things that haven't been talked about, but it's really important. And the thing that I came away with was an appreciation for the resilience of people, that there's a remarkable, deep resilience of people to survive.
When it first happened to me, I was 5.
They kept quiet for decades.
They shut their door and locked it. The odds of being abused in that diocese was higher than any other place in the United States.
But now,
He told us that if we told anybody, they wouldn't believe us because he worked for God.
they are breaking the silence. Watch online or on air beginning April 19th.
And finally, the full presentation of Bad River Chairman's, Mike Wiggins' State of the Tribes address from Madison, Wisconsin on April 12th should be in the ICTV Digital Library by April 16th. It has been called the line in the sand drawn by the tribes over the difference between creating jobs for a generation for Governor Scott Walker's political agenda or feeding tribal families retained under treaty rights and their clans to the right for clean food for the next century or more. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to say miigwech for joining in and come back again soon.